Where's Eddie? Is he showing up late already? Oh, there he is. Hey, what's happening with your favorite Morgan's place when you come in? I see it's still a dump.
Yeah? Hey, we're live, Brian.
There's a hot mic,
Should
so.
be.
For the workshop. We're live.
Okay, I call to order our Guthrie City Council Public Works Authority workshop meeting, August 1st. Second item on the agenda is discussion and possible action to amend the fees, charges, and policies for services in connection with the collection and disposal of trash. Eddie, are you taking that?
Yeah, that's all me.
Okay.
All right, so we'll start with first, Mayor and Council, a recap as to where we started in June 7th, 2022. I do want to point out the obvious, Phil, sir. I was not here, so keep in mind, this is not my presentation, this is not my doing. However, I did want to take a real quick trip down memory lane here, just to make sure that we're all on the same page. And if any of these details are different than what you see here, please inform me at that time, okay? In the presentation, if you will flip to page 2, your sheet should look like this. It's got the 2 in the top of the PowerPoint. Is that funny? I just want to make sure we're on the same page.
Literally.
Well, how come 3's not next?
2 plus 2 equals 4.
There you go.
You got 2 pages, Brian.
If you look, 3's on the next page.
3's on the next page. It's
Oh, I
front
see
and
what
back.
you're doing. I got you.
That's why it's important that he tells us where to go.
Yeah.
It might not be where you think it's
Okay.
supposed to be.
All right, so starting out with page 2, you can see when the contract was first entered into in February of 2006, the expenses and the revenue generated off of the Waste Connections contract. Over in the far right-hand column, you'll see the percentage of markup in which the city of Guthrie had made, which resulted in the revenue that we were generating. Without going through all of these line by line, to give you a grand total amount, at the end result, the city had marked up the total contract 66%. That annually came out to about $500,000. The sanitation garbage, that is considered a utility. It did supplement city operations, does supplement city operations. So keeping page 2 in mind, we're going to go to the next page, which is actually going to be page 3, even though your next page is page 4 if you're looking at the paper handout. Page 3, you can see that the rates on Waste Connections side have gone up. In the city of Guthrie, our rates have remained flat. Okay, this is the rate that we are charging today. Everything you see in the column that says customer user fee, those are current rates. So between 2006 and the current contract, we went from an original 66% markup to 35%, which resulted in a decrease in net revenue of $189,000. Okay. So in the budget process last year, we committed $100,000 of this revenue to funding 3 firemen. So we're going to cut 3 firemen because we lost $189,000.
Did you hire the 3 firemen?
I'm just kidding.
You should have seen his face.
Yeah.
You see his face.
So we paid it out, but we didn't collect it.
That's correct. So we moved over $100,000 of garbage revenue to cover the cost of the additional firemen, but we weren't actually collecting it. As you can see, the net result was a decrease in revenue.
Well, the decrease is 31% because that's what Waste Connections went up. And so, just, you want me to save my comments for the end?
No, go ahead, go ahead.
When's the last time we put them out to bid? Because, you know, realistically, I'm not afraid to put them out to bid.
Well, we just approved a 5-year contract last year.
In 2022,
Did we?
Yeah.
June 7th. So, to follow up with that comment, Brian,
We did, didn't we?
if you'll look at your attachment Exhibit A in your packet, it has a 5-year fee schedule from Waste Connections that's related to the current contract.
What page is that?
What page number's on it?
Oh, it's, you mean
Exhibit
literally
A.
Exhibit A?
Literally,
Yeah.
Exhibit A.
I thought he was being.
Okay.
Yeah.
Once everybody's there, we'll continue. So proposed rates through September 30th, 2028, if you look in that column, effective October 1, 2023, residential rates alone will see a 15% increase in charge. Okay? So we're going to go from $8.69 is what we were charged to $10.01. Now, each year after that, you see a flat 5% increase.
I'm not following your, where is that on this? I'm not
It's in
seeing
the
it.
blue.
So under the proposed rates,
Oh, there it is, I got it.
yes, sir. So you see every rate increase from now through 2027, fiscal year 2028. Okay. Commercial rates between 2022 and October 1 of 2023 will increase approximately 31%. And that's our bill from Waste Connections. So that fee increase percentage is set. And that takes you, everything we charge, including the roll-off 30-yard dumpsters out of the convenience center are on this, they're on this fee schedule. Okay. Any questions about what we've real briefly discussed so far? It's a lot of information. All right, so then if you'll go to your last handout, which is another set of spreadsheets.
Is this Leroy's spreadsheet?
Yes.
I didn't redo his work.
Spreadsheet king.
Yeah, I didn't redo his work. So if you'll take a look at what you had,
This is the very last sheet we're looking at.
yes, sir. These are current numbers. This is a format you're used to. If you'll take a look, the first category is current year expenses and revenues, okay? So you'll see the Waste Connections rate, the Waste Connections invoice, and then our customer user fee. So everything we just discussed, I've summarized in this chart. Down below it, the second section of the spreadsheet. I'm not going to say this is a proposal. I'm going to say that if we were to continue the same percentages as far as revenue markups, percentage markups, that is what you would see, the customer user fee amounts that are there, that's what you would see in order to maintain that same percentage in markup, which would then give us a net increase of $81,102, which still doesn't pay for your firemen. But it gets us closer.
Get fire marshal.
So where are these, where are the commercial accounts that aren't paying anything?
Just throw it in there.
And where are they at on this spreadsheet?
That just pays his salary.
Your,
That's what I'm saying.
your commercial accounts are listed about halfway through. You'll see in the chart, because there's a various billing matrix on the commercial, we didn't actually list out what each one was.
No, I see them, but there's a handful of them that are paying nothing.
Kim,
That's our understanding anyway.
Walmart, Auto Quip,
There's no markup.
no
There's no-
markup, they're flat.
There's no markup.
That's right.
Okay.
So
Those are not on the spreadsheet.
well, and so what I remember on this is that we were talking about increasing the flat rated ones, I mean, the no markup ones to, with an increase, we were gonna increase all commercial across the board. We weren't touching residential, that was gonna offset it. And so I'm sure that's the reason we would've went in June, 3 months later, 4 months later, and approved the Waste Connections contract. Because this, out of sight, out of mind, I thought this was already in place.
From what I can tell, as far as the documents that I've been able to find, I haven't seen that. Kim, any staff members, if you can elaborate, I'd be happy to.
Well, yeah, council approved it back in February, right? It was the email that you sent me, right?
Approved.
The commercial side of it, didn't we?
No, it was just discussed.
Okay.
It was just discussed.
We didn't vote on it.
Good.
So the last thing that was voted on that I could tell from the records was June 7th, 2022, which would approve what you have Exhibit A in your packet. It approved Waste Connections contract and that subsequent Exhibit A for all charges and rates through 2028, fiscal year 2028.
So we're gonna have to make a motion to make this all happen, right? Is that what you're telling us?
Well, I think we know what the increase is gonna be coming from Waste Connections. This is already outlined. What we pass on to the consumer, that's our prerogative. So it's at the discretion of the council how we wanna proceed. The last proposal, I believe Leroy brought forth a proposal that would have marked up all residential and commercial clients, a flat rate of 55% across the board. Well, that doesn't make a whole lot of logistical sense to me. You've got different fees. In doing that, we were actually reducing certain charges. For example, if you lived inside city limits and you requested an additional polycart, by taking that percentage of markup to 55%, we were actually decreasing the charge from what is today $10.69 to $7.98. I would prefer we don't do that. I would recommend that we keep if we're gonna do anything with that rate, we keep it flat. We've got a lot of infrastructure to move forward with. I don't know that decreasing any revenues is a good idea.
I wouldn't either.
But that's for the additional polycart
Yes, sir.
in town?
In town. So for the additional polycart inside city limits, today we charge $10.69. And the last proposal that I'm able to find, and Kim, you correct me if I'm wrong, 55% markup would take that rate to $7.98. So it actually reduces it from $10.69 to $7.98.
I'm not seeing this
That's not
1069
on-
rate
That's
anywhere.
not on Exhibit A at all.
I don't see any of those calculations on this page. Are we looking at,
You're
You're
just
back- you're
you're
back
just
to
telling.
page 4.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
so what, we're charging $7.98, right?
Is what was proposed. So page 3 has today's existing customer user fees. Page 4 has what was last proposed, what I believe to be the last directive of the council for staff to move forward with. Kim, do you agree with that?
Yep.
Well, that says February of 2006 revenue, right?
Yes, and that's the header. That's based on the percentages from the original contract in 2006. So the original markup was, for example, on the additional polycart was 157%. discussed, from what I can tell, June 7th of 2022, based on that same revenue number, was reduced to the 55% markup across the board. So it's a lot of data and a lot of back and forth.
So on the email I got from Kim on July 19th, what we were supposed to do, and you were exactly right, and we just didn't. We were supposed to have a finance committee meeting, and we were supposed to bring back a proposal to council. That never happened.
Okay,
Can we do that?
absolutely. If that's what we want to do, be more than happy to do so.
Or we can beat it out right here. We got 45 minutes, because it's not gonna take any longer than that in a finance meeting.
Sure.
Agreed.
So what you have on the last sheet of your packet, those two charts, the second spreadsheet on that chart is a consistent percentage markup with what was originally proposed. So if you wanted to look at it that way, it's a potential draft. That would take, for example, polycarts inside city limits for residential would go from 1324 to 1520. And that's maintaining,
So $2.
yes, sir.
So my bill's 17 something. I just get trashed, but for some reason I'm paying a CMOM fee as well.
User fee.
User fee.
Or user fee. Where's that? The user fee on this?
It's not on here.
It's not tied to
It's
the,
not gonna change.
So what's the neighboring communities charging on commercial versus what we're charging on commercial?
neighboring community as far as,
I don't want to use Edmond because they're
Sure.
a lot bigger than us.
sure,
Crescent, Kingfisher, Stillwater, Perry,
sure.
all these different communities, what are their commercial rates
We would be,
versus residential?
we'd be more than happy to check into that. I do not have that data for you today.
That was on the handout, and I remember that about half were lower and half were higher. I remember Stillwater was higher, for instance, and one of the small towns was higher. That was a part of Leroy's presentation.
Some of them were lower too.
Yeah, I said,
So it was
half
all
were
over the
lower
place.
and about half were lower and half were higher.
So we're about average right now.
Yeah.
We're pretty much average.
Well,
Adam, you weren't in that meeting.
I know, I'm just saying.
What are the
Oh.
odds?
Yeah. I was like, if he's saying high or lower and he's saying average, I'm like, yeah, it's in the middle, it's average.
Well, a $2 increase is not that much on a residential side, in my opinion. But, you know, I just have to say, on the behalf of the citizens out there, we're nailing them to the cross on water already. I mean, just literally. I know that we don't have electric like some of the other communities have and other sources of revenue, but I don't, I would like to look at what the, you know, is it, so how many commercial are there versus how many residential?
So a total.
604 commercial?
604 versus.
5,000?
5,000, yes, sir.
So we're looking at $10,000 on, we're looking at a $10,000 increase is what we're looking at. On residential.
But we could also not do anything on the polycard inside, leave it where it's at, and raise everything else, and you're only losing $3,000.
Yeah, we can adjust these fees in any way we want to.
What's the polycart inside all about?
That's inside the city.
Inside
limits.
city
Oh, okay,
limits.
okay.
Yep.
And that way, if we do it that way, then there's no real effect on the consumer unless they have an additional cart. They're gonna get charged extra for that one. But on their original cart, they won't get charged extra for it at all. And that way, we're not doing what you're not.
Well, we're already talking about increasing the additional cart to 1069.
No, well, up here on top is what's already been approved, is that correct? And below is what's proposed?
That's correct. So
Okay. So right now, they're charged $13.24.
That's a base for, you have one cart, you're a garbage customer, that's your rate.
Okay, so I'm saying we just leave that one alone.
The
And then come on down
1324.
and increase everything else below, just like you said. The second one, instead of being 1069, would be 1235.
Well, that's already, if you look down here, that's already happened down on this revenue.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, Brian, is just eliminate this one. Right here.
Basically, you're gonna pull net revenue 20 grand on,
We'd be pulling 17 grand instead of 20 grand, is what we'd be doing if we left that one alone and only raised everything else. And that way, the individuals inside the city
that wasn't even
limits.
20 grand,
So
not 20 grand.
if the polycard increased to 1001, which is what will happen on October 1, 2023, with our current customer count, the Waste Connections invoice would be $36,876.84.
That's using the 55% all the way across the board, right?
That's what Waste Connections.
No, I'm not taking in consideration of their increase, so.
Yeah, they're increasing their fee on us.
Right.
So currently, we pay $869 per polycard,
Right,
and they're increasing to 1001.
okay.
As of next year, or as of this year?
October of
October
23.
October 1.
Yes, sir. Yep. So currently, at
On 1001.
1324.
Oh, right there, yeah.
At 1324, we generate $48,000 worth of revenue on the polycards alone. Once that
Okay, then
increases
we have to raise it at that point, just to stay even.
by that 15%, if we were to keep it flat,
Yeah, that'd
We'd be
really,
about 12 grand.
yep,
Yeah.
11,899.
so you'd be losing more than that, you'd be losing about 7 grand.
Well, we better put a user fee on those EMT runs outside of city limits, dude. Make up for the difference.
I think we should keep a consistent markup of what Waste Connections is charging us.
I agree, yeah.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's a utility, it supplements city services.
So,
Does it need to be 108%? That's probably excessive. But a 75% markup on additional polycards, those are higher revenue generating items because they don't charge us as much for the additional polycard. So the more money we make on the additional polycard is actually more money in the bank. It's cheaper to have two than one, so.
What's their 5-year increase? I just don't remember that meeting.
5%?
and
I'm talking about Waste Connections 5-year.
Cumulative, the polycards will come up to 40% increase by fiscal year '28.
And I just want to make sure I didn't hear incorrectly. We're basically, the rate is flat for Walmart and Auto Equip. What was the rationale for that?
Kim?
I don't know that any of us were here when that happened.
Yeah. Even before my time.
Okay, all right.
And that's one of the things that we definitely said.
And I think there's more than, I think there's more than those two.
Right,
Right,
I think that definitely needs, I can't even,
Yeah.
so it's not flat on every commercial customer, it's just on,
On a handful of them, and we don't, that's what I was trying to identify,
Right.
which ones.
They're roll-offs. They're not like dumpsters, they're roll-offs. And I don't know if that makes a difference, but,
They're big.
Yeah, we don't have a roll-off price.
yeah.
Heave stuff into, okay.
so assuming we approve this expensive revenue rate increase you're talking about here across the board, can we just tie those percentages to Waste Connections rate, so we don't have to do this anymore?
Absolutely.
And just have it stay that way from now on? Whatever their rate is, we add 52% to it or whatever and go on?
Well, no, they can't just keep raising, we put them to
No,
bid.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, we shouldn't have to be dealing with all this all the time. We can do it one time and be done. We can deal with Waste Connections every time they come up with a contract. That's a different thing altogether.
which is 5 years.
Which,
Right.
And, well, let's be real clear. I've been here 8 years, and this is the first time, other than in 2022 when we dealt with it. So we're not dealing with this all the time.
Right, well, what I'm saying is, once we get this approved, it's approved, and we don't have to
I
revisit
understand.
it.
I'm not really.
But
I don't
how
know-
did we have it set up originally?
So the original percentages are on page 2.
Right, but what I'm getting at is, why did that not tie directly to Waste Connections' price and increase as their price increased?
That's a good question. My assumption is the resolution didn't allow for the new contract, which took place last year. And that's why the new conversation was added. And I believe in 2012, there was a 12.5% increase that was implemented. Kim, do you?
Trash,
Mhm.
2006 was the last increase.
I'm sorry, it is 2006. It was a 12.5% increase in 2006. So that's the last time this has been looked at. If we can agree on the markup percentages, then we can tie it directly to Waste Connections invoice for the next 5 years and automatically increase those fees on an annual basis, so we don't have to do this again.
We ought to at least break even.
With these rates,
Yeah.
they don't look that bad.
Not have to supplement.
It's a $2 increase.
We're gonna give it that fire chief, I mean, fire marshal.
Then why do it?
What do you put?
Then why do it?
That's summer.
It's only a $2 increase.
Oh, yeah,
Fine,
the
then don't
song.
do it. Leave
Song.
it zero.
Because it's revenue.
Yeah, the someone's gonna have to
It's
go.
revenue.
I get it.
You can just go stand out in the
That's
heat.
what you
and
want.
that'll take
Sometimes you
care of
gotta
all your
trim
problems.
the nose hairs.
I'd like to get rid of a couple firemen.
I'm not saying that.
So on the spreadsheet you have before you, which is the last attachment to your packet, is there any opposition? Are there any thoughts? I realize we don't want to increase any rates.
This is the last page we're talking about? Well, I would like to identify the commercial ones that are flat.
Okay,
And then how do we, and if they're roll-offs, how do we even determine, I mean, when I get a roll-off, it's like $400 for the big one. So I'm assuming that's probably what they're paying,
so
or
if
somewhere in
you,
that neighborhood.
on Exhibit A, and on the second page, you can see what Waste Connections is charging us, and subsequently what we were charging them.
And which one?
Exhibit A. So auto quit, currently $509.92,
Where are they at?
roll-off rates.
They're down at the bottom. You're looking at the wrong.
Brian's the
Oh,
second
on the
page.
next one.
Second page.
one.
Oh,
Okay, here they are.
Okay.
We'll do page numbers next time, so we keep it straight. So AutoQuip has $509.92 as of October 1, 22. October 1, 23, that will have a 27% increase, which will then take that to $647.60.
And this is all
In
Waste
20.
Connections increase.
Yes, sir. Walmart, currently $441.66, which will increase to $560.91 October 1 of 23. Love's, existing $460.65, will increase to $585.03. So AutoQuip is a 40-yard, Walmart is a 35-yard, and Lowe's is a 34-yard.
But all this is Waste Connections rates. This isn't our markup. Okay.
But we're
Well,
saying, we don't,
Waste Connections took our entire markup in their markup,
right,
is what they did.
Well, were those marked up at one point, or have those always been flat? You know,
What was the question?
were there ever markups on those 4 commercial or 5 commercial, or have those always been flat?
It's just passed through, yeah.
and we have no idea what the rationale was behind the flat fee.
How many, so, you know, if you go to New York, like, there's huge numbers of waste contractors out there. I mean, like, there's literally a plethora of these people out there.
Oh, tons.
But how many are actually in the market in this?
I could name you 5 off the top of my head. It's a fairly competitive market because it is such a lucrative business. So Waste Connections is not the only business in town. I mean,
Well, and they're making a killing.
But we
Bottom
discussed
line.
this back then too, and the other company we used, the service was horrible, as I recall.
Yep, it was.
That's why we switched to Waste Connections, because it was just terrible service.
Well, and the reality is, if we've just signed a 5-year contract, I mean,
There was a reason.
really isn't any sense talking
5
about
years,
that at this
5
time. 4 years from
Well,
now.
it just depends on what the fine print of the contract
Yeah.
is.
But that's, we're already,
I don't have an
Partner
objection
with
Yeah, we're already committed to
at
that.
all.
yeah.
I think we go ahead with it.
Part, Jim?
Well, I
Which part?
I really
This last
object
page,
Yeah, I'm
to
more
right
the,
here.
to
I don't think
the,
we have a problem with that.
to the flat fee for, you
We
know,
already agreed to all
corporations that are making, at least one of them is making huge profits, so
most of them.
you know, that just, I'm not sure what that rationale was when that was approved, but.
And that was 06, right?
Well, and another thing is that any one of these companies, including you or me or anybody else, can call any trash company and have a roll-off delivered. Okay, so you gotta be cognizant of that. Like I say, Waste Connection took all of our margin on this deal that we would have had we increased commercial. These big ones anyway.
so we can go through this line item by what's before you, or we can go back to the drawing board, take a look at the market, current market. I didn't bring you the market analysis from previous because it's not current. So we can do that and come back for a final vote at a regular council meeting in the future, or we can take a look at what's before you and determine line item by line item.
And there was no limit on what they could increase their rates in the 5 years, there was no cap on.
Yeah, it's already decided.
I would say
Right
the
here.
cap is what the rate is listed in Exhibit A.
Okay, all right.
So for fiscal year '28, October 1 of 2027, the residential rate for a polycart will cap at $12.17.
Okay.
That's per this contract. And when we look at the next one, then we'll have to.
So we're not talking a ton on the residential side, what we're talking about is on the commercial side. So how do you do anything on the, I guess, what do? We're gonna go increase every commercial out there except the big 6, we'll call them? You know?
That's
That's real fair.
I think we've got to increase those too.
okay. We can finalize those numbers and bring them back to you for
Well, maybe
final
we could make
Again, you have to watch out because, look, for example, at 509 on a 40-yard container, I'm pretty confident that you can go get that from anybody. And maybe even less than that.
But if it's not making us any money today and they go use somebody else, we didn't lose anything.
Right.
So
We're not gonna be competitive, it wouldn't make
But
sense.
I don't know how you can use somebody else because on the residential side, I was forced to take the city trash
Right.
when I was bringing mine to the dump every other week.
Yes, sir. I was under the impression we were referencing the roll-offs.
Right.
We are, but I'm talking about on all of it. I mean, how can, if they're in city limits, why wouldn't the same rule apply that applies to a residential?
It's a great question. I think
That's
the-
all I'm saying.
The easy answer is there's no way to police that. I mean,
Eddie, just to make sure, or just so I can make sure I'm clear on this. The contract, the flat rate deal is between us and who?
Waste-
Waste Connection. So it's not between us and the big six, it's between us and the Waste.
No, I would say it's between us and those customers that we're not increasing. We haven't increased their rates.
This
Has-
happened back way before any of our time.
Yeah, that has
Yeah.
nothing to do with Waste Connections.
So we just talking about the big six then, or are we talking about all the commercials?
We're talking all of it, varied.
You know, just think of it as, it was probably perceived, probably, none of us were here, as a business incentive.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
I'm sure.
and that's how it probably all came about, and then somebody, the city, said, we'll just hold your trash level.
Sure.
As a business incentive. I don't know if that's what happened, but that's what the bottom line, that's what happened. It was that they'd been held as just flat. And, you know, the major conversation that we all had the last time we looked at this is that that part's gotta be fixed. Those folks have got to come up.
So,
Those folks have got to come up.
and you're saying we gotta wait 4 years to do that?
No.
No,
we don't.
no.
Do that right now.
We can do it right now?
We can
Then
do it
why are
right
we-
now.
Then why are we talking?
Well,
I was under the impression we're just, we can't do anything, what are we gonna do? I'm
no,
like,
we can do that, we could do that tonight if the council is of that mode.
I'm waiting on a directive, so.
Is that, well,
Let's do it.
there's no
I
vote.
was under the impression we couldn't do it.
And
We were
possi-
all-
okay,
As I recall, we were all.
Okay, all right.
was pitching.
Well, that's what I thought too.
Vice Mayor, I would recommend that we not actually take a vote during the workshop. If we
Yeah,
could
no.
just, if you could just provide a direction, you would like to see staff do X, Y, Z, bring it back for a vote at the second meeting in August. And then that'll give us another opportunity to discuss it. And then we would like to inform the customers of the increase prior to October 1, so that they know that's coming.
So, let me ask a question. The Waste Connections contract, these six can't be locked into that contract with us because there's no revenue on our side and it's flat.
Well, we're able to
That's
increase.
a Waste Connection thing in them.
We're just doing a pass.
We're just passing it through. We can mark it up at any time. Okay. We can mark it up at any time.
Okay, we can do that.
Those six pay the bill to the city of Guthrie, correct? They're not paying directly to.
Correct.
That's correct.
I could've made a motion 20 seconds into it.
So the proposal we have before you, any feedback? I mean, this is a couple bucks. I mean, to me, to us, may not be a big deal, but for some folks, that could be. You know, our water bills are high. We know the utility bills are high. But keep in mind, Waste Connections is raising their rate on us. So every time that we don't act and we're delaying that action, we're losing revenue because of that action.
And then when you do raise it on everybody, it's gonna hurt.
Absolutely.
It'll be a bigger increase.
Yeah, I mean, they're gonna squawk.
Yeah, that's the problem with trying to play catch-up. Because then you've got a bigger, that's, as a number of us have identified, we need to then tie both, certainly the residential, but maybe the residential and the commercial to the Waste Connection. If they're gonna increase us 6.4%, then we in turn, increase residential and commercial 6.4%. So we're not stuck in a big catch-up that we are now, or we haven't had a change in 15+ years. So I think we're pretty much in unison there. It's what's the starting point to it, and I think we all, and my sense is we all want to do something that catches up the commercial definitely. I think the big question is what's a fair rate for the residential, and I think what was proposed, as Brian identified, was a couple dollar change, an increase for the routine, poly cart, and I don't think that's out of line.
Well, let's,
So the proposal that you have on your last attachment, and again, I apologize for not labeling it, October 2023 Waste Connection expense versus City of Guthrie revenue with rate increase. On the far right column, you have a percentage markup. Those percentages are consistent with the original contract. So if we stayed with those percentages, which again are negotiable, then your correlating rate under the customer user fee would be, for example, the residential polycart inside city limits would go from $13.24 to $15.20. And that's keeping the rates consistent with what we had previously.
Yeah, that's,
So we're in agreement that that's the direction to go.
Pretty much agreed to it, and we were pitched.
well, let's talk about the 604 commercial accounts.
That's, yeah, that's.
It's varied here on this spreadsheet,
It's
but it's
very,
1347 up here. You know, they're actually almost the same as a residential.
it's varied because of the opportunities for pickup multiple times per week, the different types of pickup. So for example, the 2-yard, the 3-yard, 4-yard, 6-yard, you can pick those up once a week, twice a week, 4 times per week, and all of those rates are reflected in Exhibit A, the Waste Connections, what they charge us. So they're varied and they're not on your sheet here, but that's because there's
Too many.
30 of them.
Right.
But the cumulative increase on the commercial accounts was 55% minus the ones we previously talked about, AutoQuip, Love's,
And the
Walmart.
55% includes all the 2, 4, 6-yard
Yes, sir.
deals that are out there.
Yes, sir.
Why is, on the 2023, why is the additional polycart for outside city limits a decrease?
So it was previously losing 26%. It's currently losing 26%.
Right.
We brought it up to the $15, which is, it's a loss of 14%. It's,
Why are we losing?
Where are you seeing that it's
On the additional polycart outside the city limits, it's
$15?
Yeah, keep going right, it shows a negative.
a negative net revenue.
that's what it was in 2006, and that's what I brought to you. I don't have a whole lot of information as to why we're losing money on that particular line item.
Well, I think anything on flat or negative revenue needs to be increased.
Okay?
Yeah,
Agreed.
well, and I'm not sure why we would subsidize citizens outside the city limits at the expense
Of our own citizens.
Guthrie citizens. I mean, that seems,
Let's look at this. The inside polycart, we're raising to 52%. I mean, it'll be raised 52% on October 1 of 2023, right? And this is from '06, I get it.
Yep.
But if you look at the polycart outside, it's only increased 32%. And we hadn't even fixed that. So
Well-
that should be fixed.
And that's based on Waste Connections fee. So we can make it 52% and increase. The difference is the polycart outside is $22.95 and the polycart inside is $15.20 with this proposal. And I think that was the rationale behind it. You're already increasing it more than what the folks inside are paying. So keeping it lower, yet still having a net gain, if that makes any sense. Today, we're losing 26% on additional polycarts outside of city limits. I brought that number up to losing 14%. So we can take that flat. I'd be happy to do that.
Absolutely.
You know, I don't think we ought to be losing
Any money?
any money.
Well, it's like you said, the big
You know,
revenue deal is that second
But
card.
that's the
Yeah.
only one that we're losing less, that we would, under this proposal, we would be charging less than what Waste Connections charging us, just that one.
Yeah, but what I was just saying a second ago, Steve, the additional polycard is our profit thing, because we get them cheaper, correct?
Absolute, inside city limits, yes, sir.
Not outside city limits?
Outside city limits, they are 1739 outside. It's the same cost outside of city limits. to us.
And I thought, well, that's not on the agenda, so we won't talk about it.
So what I've heard tonight, we'll come back to you with current market rates. We will take care of the 3 customers which we've identified that have not been charged any increase, and there will be no negative losses.
That's it.
Great.
You mean the 6 customers?
You know, Leroy talked about this whole
What with Walmart?
or the garbage business being a revenue source. And at first I took offense to that term being with a service like garbage. But then after seeing everything, the cost of everything, and I don't mind making a little money on garbage, but if we're talking about a second poly cart particularly, you can look at that as a consumer tax, because you needed another cart because you generate more garbage. And I have 2. One of them I rarely use. I use it for sticks and or whatever, and garden stuff. But that's a luxury item, I think, or an additional item that you use because of your usage of whatever. So if there's going to be any revenue generated extra, I think it should be on the second cart. That's just my opinion. Or break even, certain, absolutely.
So we're staying consistent with the other
Definitely
terms?
consistent.
Okay.
Definitely
But
consistent
the
with
second
that.
polycart.
Yeah.
You got an increase of 1230 to 1235, right?
Inside city limits, yes, sir.
Inside, that's what I'm talking about, inside.
Yep,
How many, there's 1,000 of those,
that's
Right.
correct. 1,015.
1,015.
But I think if I'm understanding Tracy right, he's saying that maybe instead of even just breaking even on the additional polycart, if we wanted to make a little bit of revenue, that would be where to do it, because that's a citizen's
Sure.
decision upon, hey, I'm just doing my,
Consumer use.
right,
We will increase those and bring that number back to you.
And the outside.
Yep.
And the other thing that was discussed initially was that we were losing money on the convenience center. And this was
Yes,
to
that's
help,
true. That's
this was
true.
to help offset some of that loss
That's right.
at the convenience center, if I remember that
I've
conversation.
forgotten about that, that's correct.
Yeah.
That is correct.
And we shouldn't be losing money
We
anyway.
should not be losing money.
So all of the spreadsheets I've provided to you are from previous council meeting, minus the last one you got. So at the next council meeting, we'll bring you an action item that incorporates the terms we've discussed tonight, and taking a final look at the market prior to that adoption. Are we good with that?
Right? Good. And will that be just through the staff, or will that be through finance committee?
Just gonna do it through staff, just gonna pull it
Through
back
staff,
to us.
okay, all right. Everybody good with that then?
Yes,
Yep.
sir.
Okay, third item, on the agenda, discussion of possible action regarding future workshops as discussed in the July 18th city council retreat.
Yes, Mayor and Council. Okay, a couple of items as a result of the retreat. First, the fire marshal position. I do have a tentative workshop date of September 5th, 2023. Are there any conflicts with that date? We would do that at 6 p.m. prior to the regular meeting.
When is it?
September 5th.
Oh,
So it'd be the first meeting in September.
I don't hear
I'm
any
good.
conflicts, so I think we can assume that's fine.
Some top of priority next steps for staff. On August 4th, there is a downtown merchant meeting. Their regular monthly meeting is here at City Hall the first Friday of the month at 9 a.m. This Friday at 9 a.m., staff is on the agenda to visit with the merchants in reference to the fire marshal position. So you're welcome to attend. If any of you would like to, please let me know in the event of a possible quorum so that I can make sure Kim gets a possible quorum posted. In addition to that, Chief Lawson and myself are working with comparing surrounding communities and fire marshal positions. I did visit with several other city managers at the City Managers Conference in reference to this position. The City of Ponca City, the City of Muskogee, and the City of McAllister are all in a similar position with vacant buildings. So trying to strategize, come up with some sort of vacant building ordinance or tax. There's positive and negative in every situation. I did visit with the City of Midwest City Manager, Tim Lyon. We had a lot of good conversation. I look forward to more conversation. He was not particularly in favor of a fire marshal for code enforcement related activities for vacant structures. So his opinion and the opinion of a couple other city managers I visited with, when the structure is vacant and it's not detrimental to the public as far as life safety goes, he felt that we would be pushing our legal authority to enter into a vacant structure and under the guise of life safety. I'm not sure that I completely agree with that. On the face of it, I do think that that argument has some merit, but just know that I did visit with Midwest City because they were referenced at the retreat. In addition to that, you've got some next steps there in front of you. If we were to add the fire marshal position, please note that is a position that will need to be negotiated, and the union collective bargaining agreement will not open until October of next year. So it would be October of '24 before that position could be added at this time. Okay? Highland Park Pool, tentative workshop date for September 12th. If there are no objections, I'll keep rolling. I have visited with Municipal Finance Services regarding financing opportunities. We've compared general obligation bonds versus a sales tax revenue bond or even a sales tax increase to fund a new pool. At the same time, I've tasked Bill Myers with gathering contacts of contractors who have actually built pools that has an idea of the market rate. So the estimates we've gotten to date have come from Andy Smith, which from what I can gather is a trusted source, is a reliable source when it comes to aquatic centers. But I would rather hear from a contractor who's actually built a pool, municipal pool lately, and bring you that data so you have that in front of you. Like I say, the tentative workshop date for that is September 12th, and I do anticipate having Municipal Finance Services here to discuss all funding opportunities. At this point, the general obligation bond, which is a property tax increase, appears to be the most lucrative. Again, that's a touchy subject. So cities going after general ad valorem tax is, it's not a written rule, but it's sort of an unspoken bond that cities and schools have. So, and then finally, Owen Field, the workshop date to be determined. Wanted to visit with you regarding what the council anticipated coming out of a workshop in reference to Owen Field. So we do have the chair of the Owen Field Committee in the room, not to put Chris on the spot. However, we do have an existing task force that was put in place prior to the grant. And so if council agrees, I believe staff would like to see the task force continue, given that they were on board prior to the grant application. So,
I
and a
think
list
that's-
of those names are in front of you.
I think that makes perfect sense.
I don't believe I've missed any workshop topics. If I have, please let me know.
Well, and again, a workshop can happen at any given time anyway, so.
Sure. And then lastly, the results of the retreat are in your packet as well. So you've got those as far as scoring and what priorities you wanted to see out of each department.
Would you have a page number? On this little book.
Okay, we will have page numbers for you on every spreadsheet going forward. So,
The only thing I will say, and Eddie, back to your response to the fire marshal thing again, with the Midwest cities, our city managers comment on if it's abandoned being a fire hazard. I mean, what are the circumstances? Is that building completely connected to another building that people do live in? And that's what I would say at face value is a little bit of a different scenario.
absolutely, and I agree. It's hard to paint with a big brush.
Right.
It's easy to say, for example, it's easy to say, we're gonna increase trash rates by a certain percentage.
Right.
It's not always applicable.
Exactly.
So,
You said our results from are in here?
they're in your council packet, I'm sorry.
Oh. That packet. Never mind,
We've given you several packets tonight.
thank you.
Okay, any other questions of Eddie?
Get it?
Hearing none, we're adjourned for about
5 minutes.
5, Okay, ladies and gentlemen, please stand. Join with me in the salute to our country and our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Remain standing for our prayer. Oh, Lord, Heavenly Father, we thank you for...
We have.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I am sorry.
We're looking around for.
We have an actual pastor here. You don't have to listen to me. Pastor, go ahead. I'm sorry.
We cannot have too many prayers. Let us pray.
Amen to that.
Almighty God, your glory shines throughout the world and throughout the city of Guthrie. We commend to your merciful care our community, that we may live and meet securely in peace, and may be guided by your providence and protection. Give all in authority the wisdom and strength to know your will and to do it. Help them to remember that they are called to serve the people as lovers of truth and justice. May you bless our thoughts, words, and deeds during tonight's meeting. Bless us with kindness, courage, and hope. We ask all of this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Appreciate that very much. Okay, I call to order our Guthrie Public Works Authority meeting of August 1st. Second item on the agenda is public comments, announcements, recognitions. Do we have any? Do you have anything,
No.
Kim? No, we have none. Third item is the consent agenda, item A, B, C, and D. A is the approval of the Public Works Authority minutes of July 18th. B is the approval of pay application number 7 to Young Construction in the amount of $114,000 for water line replacement on Division. C is the approval application number 8 for Young Construction for an amount of $27,000 for the CDBG water line replacement on Division. And D is the approval of pay application number 9 to Young Construction for $32,000, almost $33,000 for, again, water line replacement project on Division. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion of any of those items? Submit your votes then.
All votes right?
See the votes? Unanimous approval of consent agenda items A, B, C, and D. Item number 4, discussion and acceptance of the 2022 annual financial statement and independent audit report. Kim?
I'm going to turn it over to Ann. She is with us via Zoom. Let me turn the lights on.
Hi, Ann.
Yep.
Hello, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. I'm pleased to present our audit of the financial statements for the city for the year ended September 30th, 2022. And the entities included in our audit were the City of Guthrie, as well as the City of Guthrie Public Works Authority, the City of Guthrie Industrial Development Authority. We did not include 2 inactive authorities, the Guthrie Public Transportation Authority or the Guthrie Transportation Authority. Just to review the responsibilities of management versus those of the auditor. Management is responsible for the preparation and fair presentation of the financial statements in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America, or U.S. GAAP. This includes the design, implementation, and maintenance of internal control relevant to the preparation and fair presentation of financial statements that are free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error. Our objectives as auditors are to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements as a whole are free from material misstatement, whether due to standards. The risk of not detecting a material misstatement resulting from fraud is higher than for one resulting from error, as fraud may involve collusion, forgery, intentional omissions, misrepresentations, or the override of internal controls. Misstatements are considered material if there is a substantial likelihood that, individually or in the aggregate, they would influence the judgment made by a reasonable user based on the financial statements. So the financial statements focus is on external users. And we are reviewing and certifying to those external users in our audit process. In performing an audit under the aforementioned standards, we exercise professional judgment and maintain professional skepticism throughout the audit. We identify and assess the risks of material misstatement of the financial statements, whether due to fraud or error, and design and perform audit procedures responsive to those risks. We obtain an understanding of internal control relevant to the audit in order to design audit procedures that are appropriate, but not for the purpose of expressing an opinion on the effectiveness of the city's internal control. Accordingly, no such opinion is expressed. We evaluate the appropriateness of accounting policies used and the reasonableness of significant accounting estimates made by management, as well as evaluate the overall presentation of the financial statements. We are also required to communicate with those charged with governance, which would be the City Council and the Board of Trustees, regarding, among other matters, the planned scope and timing of the audit, which we communicate in our engagement letter, significant audit findings, and certain internal control related matters that we identify during the audit. Our opinion units, we have 5 opinion units: governmental activities, business type activities, and each major fund, the general fund and the Guthrie Public Works Authority. And then the 5th opinion unit is the aggregate remaining fund information, that the non-major funds in the aggregate. I'm pleased to say that in all 5 opinion units, our opinion was that the financial statements were fairly stated in keeping with accounting principles generally accepted in the U.S. In other words, it was an unmodified or clean opinion. The city did adopt a new accounting pronouncement. It was GASB 87 related to leases. It involved the recognition of a different recognition of 2 leases, one where the city was the lessee and the other where the city was, and that related to equipment. And the other was where the city was lessor, which related to mineral rights, oil and gas rights. Significant estimates included the management's estimate of useful lives of capital assets, which may be different from that actually incurred, and the valuation of net pension liability and other post-employment benefits, which have a number of different estimates included. So that is our first report. We issued 3 reports in total again this year. Our second report is in accordance with government auditing standards. It's required. We issued our report on consideration of the city's internal control over financial reporting and our test of its compliance with certain provisions of laws, regulations, contracts, and grant agreements and other matters. The purpose of that report is to describe the scope of our testing and not to issue an opinion. The result of our testing disclosed no deficiencies that were considered to be material to the financial statements or otherwise required to be reported as a finding. However, when we identify opportunities for improvement in areas that we've selected for testing, we may communicate them to management either orally or in writing. Because a third report was required because the city had more than $750,000 in expenditures of federal grant awards. So consequently, a single audit was required under the uniform guidance. We identified 1 major program this year, and which had expenditures of $659,791, and that was the Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Funds, or ARPA. And that was just the amount that was expended during the year, so it's not the full award. That we noted that that was primarily, what was reviewed was the expenditures were with young contracting related to a water main project. So those are our three reports. Financial highlights for the fiscal year says September 30th, 2020, ended September 30th, 2022. The city's total net position increased by $3.8 million, or 8.1% from the prior year. There were increases in both the governmental and business type activities. At September 30th, 2022, the general fund reported an unassigned fund balance of $3.3 million, or approximately 105 days of expenditures. Expenditures in every functional area in the general fund were below appropriations, indicating good budgetary controls. Capital assets exceeded depreciation once again this year. So the city continues to build assets. The debt issued in the current year, there was one Clean Water State Revolving Fund promissory note in the amount of $4.1 million that was issued. However, only $188,000 was actually drawn on it as of September 30th. The two notes that were issued last year continued to have advances against them. The 2020 Clean Water State Revolving Fund promissory note of $8 million that was issued last year had draws of about $5.2 million in the current year, essentially fully advanced. And in 2021, the 2021 Clean Water State Revolving Fund promissory note of $8 million had draws of $4.6 million approximately in the current year, and still approximately just a little over $3 million remain to be drawn on that note. Pension plans, the measurement date, once again, that holds up. It delays the financial statement issuance because we're waiting on the police and fire state plans to issue their financial statements for June 30th, 2022. And but the police fund is still an asset, although it's a decrease from prior year. So it's at 102.74%, decrease from prior years 117.07%. And the city's cost share of the total plan continued to increase. The fire plan went back to where it was basically historically. Last year it was at 84.24% funded, and it went back to around 70%, which is 69.49%. The city's cost share continued to increase relative to the state as a whole. The OMRF is a small liability, although it was an asset last year. So it's funded 94.2%, which is a decrease from prior years of 116.94%. So that concludes my report. Do I have any questions?
Any questions from the council? No? I guess not, Ann. I think when you hear terms like clean opinion and net position going up and good budgetary controls, things like that in an audit report, I think those are good indicators that things are in good hands in Guthrie financially.
Good job, staff.
Anything else?
Yes.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion then to accept the
moved.
financial report as submitted.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Submit your votes.
All votes are in.
Let's see the votes. Unanimous approval then to accept the financial report as submitted. And thank you so much for that presentation. Thank your agency for doing the work on this.
My pleasure.
Okay, item number 5 is discussion and possible action to approve the revisions made to resolution number 2023-07, waiving the bidding and advertising procedure for unusual contract purchases to acquire new and used vehicles and equipment by the city of Guthrie and the Guthrie Public Works. Eddie, you taking that?
Yes, Mayor and Council, this item was revised, the purchasing policy was revised prior to my arrival, which essentially allowed city staff to purchase used trucks due to supply chain issues on new pickup trucks. However, what we found when looking out for used pickup trucks to purchase, the trucks that we're finding, you can purchase a new work truck not on state bid for virtually the same money. So what we're asking for at this time is a revision to that original resolution to incorporate the purchase of new trucks, new vehicles that are not on state bid pricing.
Up to the $100,000 ceiling.
Yes, sir. The original terms will remain the same. I don't foresee that we're going to get anywhere close to that. We've got 3 trucks for purchase on the regular council agenda later this evening. And so that's going to be the range we're in, $55,000 to $60,000.
And that's just for this fiscal year.
That's correct. It will end September 30th.
But that's for 3 trucks, right?
These 3 here that are coming up in the council.
Right.
Yes,
So,
But it could be any after this also.
that's correct, up until the end of the fiscal year.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion?
but we're not talking a fleet of police vehicles. You all of a sudden say, hey, council approved this, here's 8 of them I can buy right now.
No, I'm cutting police vehicles.
We still have the budget that you're working within.
Sure.
This just gives you the authority to do it without coming to council on every item.
So when we're purchasing the new vehicles, rather than state bid pricing where you're able to order the vehicle, it's secured, your name is on it. We're walking up to a dealership, we see a truck on the lot, and we're paying sticker price. That's basically what we're doing. So the 3 units that we're going to ask you to purchase under this new policy at the council meeting, they're sitting on the lot, and somebody could walk in and buy them tomorrow, which means we could lose them. Basically, we're asking to waive that requirement. We don't have to purchase off state bid contract, and we'll still bring the item back as a consent item if need be. We'd be happy to do that, so.
All right.
Okay, any other questions? All right, submit your votes.
All votes are in.
See the votes. Unanimous approval then to amend Resolution 2023-07 to include new and used vehicles and equipment. That ends our Public Works Authority meeting and open up our City Council meeting of August 1st. Second item on the agenda is consent agenda items A, B, C, and D. A is the approval of the City Council minutes of July 18th. C is confirmation of the GPWA action accepting the annual financial statement and auditor's report. C is the approval to accept a grant from Walmart for the amount of $2,000 to be used in the purchase of smoke detectors and batteries for citizens. And D is the approval of payment to John Vance Motors for the purchase of a 2023 Ford 150 crew cab pickup in the amount of $49,283.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Submit your votes.
All votes are in.
See the votes. Unanimous approval then to approve consent agenda items A, B, C, and D. Item number 3, discussion and possible action to approve the revision of the resolution 2023-07, waiving the bidding and advertising procedure for acquiring new and used vehicles and equipment. We just had that discussion. Any other late thoughts, comments? Submit your votes.
You need a motion.
Sorry. Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Yeah, motion and a second. Now submit your votes.
All votes are in.
The unanimous approval then to add that amendment to the resolution number 2023-07 to include new vehicles and equipment. Item number 4, discussion possible action to approve task order number 153 with Myers Engineering for the preliminary design, final design, bidding phase for Owens Field softball, phase 1A. Kenny?
Mayor, task order 149 was approved back in July of 2020, and that task order covered the preliminary design and the budget, as well as the grant application process, provided assistance with that process. This agreement is for final design phase, the bidding phase, engineering during the construction staking, and surveying services, and a resident project representative for Owens Field Softball Complex, Phase 1A. The total cost of the task order project is $271,280,000, or $271,280. The construction staking and surveying services, as well as the resident project representative services fee, could be less or more based off of the estimate provided in the task order. The project is part of the Land Water Conservation Grant that was recently received. It is a 50-50 matching grant.
And this is fields, parking, lighting?
Yes, sir. This will include 3 additional softball fields, parking, a concession area, umpire building.
What
One
about
field
that pump station?
lighted.
Yes, pump station, restroom, 1,300 square
Okay,
foot
yeah,
restroom
restrooms,
concession.
that's what we talked about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Water, sewer, utility, yes.
And I think as far as the lift station goes, or referring to pump station, I think Bill Myers is here, but I think he's been reviewing that. I'm not sure if he's come up with the plan yet or not, but we've been looking into possibly options of not having to do a lift station.
Cool.
Yes, we want everything in the city of Guthrie to grab it. So we're gonna repair, and heading forward, that's our goal, seriously.
Right?
What's that? Gravity.
Gravity
Yeah.
sewer,
We love gravity.
Make everything go downhill.
everything goes downhill.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Submit your votes.
All votes are in.
See the votes. Unanimous approval then to approve task order number 153, approximately $271,000 for Phase 1A of Owen Field Softball Complex. Item number 5, discussion and possible action to approve the purchase of 2 new 3/4 ton 4-wheel drive pickups from Carter Chevrolet.
Mayor, this item has been tossed around. It's been in, I think this is our second budget, actually, I believe. We've rolled over funds due to, again, back to the issues we'd ran into with purchasing vehicles. These funds for these items are from an existing budget, FY '23. The total price of both purchases together is $111,120. One of these trucks is on the, or was on the lot at Carter. The other one was still in transit. We're wanting to try to seal this deal and get hopefully the one that's still at the lot purchased and get our name on the one that's in transit.
And so Mayor and Council, real quick, this item, these trucks are approximately $55,000 a piece. The used trucks that Tenny had brought forward to me last week, they were, go ahead, Tenny, if you'll read.
I have those here. One that we looked at was, it was a 2018, this one was, I don't have it wrote on this one. There's one right here at Seth Wadley's. It was a 2021, 65,000 on it, 46,000. The first one that I'd mentioned had 88,000 on it. All of these trucks was right around the same price. Here was a blue Chevy that we looked at 2021 Chevy for 49,000, had 67,000 miles on it. So again, what we were kind of running into when we started looking for the search for the used vehicles back when the trend was difficult, it looks like that trend is starting to kind of turn around, and we're seeing some abilities to maybe grab a hold of some new vehicles versus the used. The price of these used ones is now what we're starting to see on the trend of the new ones that we're able to get as far as just work packages go.
And that was the prompt of, it's a better use to buy a new vehicle when you're talking $6,000. That's why we brought that forward.
I'll second.
And no miles.
And no miles.
Yes.
Yeah.
We got a first and a second.
No miles and no brainer. Entertain a motion?
We got a first and a
Got it.
second.
Motion and a second. Okay, submit your votes.
All votes are in.
See the votes. Unanimous approval then to purchase those two 3/4 ton vehicles from Carter Chevrolet. Item number 6, discussion of possible action to approve purchase of a new 3/4 ton from Classic Chevrolet. Same scenario?
Same scenario. This unit is still in transit as well. They could not give us an actual date of when we could see the vehicle, but again, this will allow us to get our name on this vehicle. It could be 3 months, it could be 12 months before we actually see the vehicle.
Are these flatbeds, or are they just gonna be?
These are 3/4 ton pickups.
Pickup.
Okay, so, okay.
Okay.
We were never able to, in our original discussion, I believe with council, we did have discuss a 1 ton flatbed for our parks department. Again, still having issues as far as the heavier fleet that you see, the 1 ton fleets is still pretty difficult. What we're looking at probably doing is moving one of our superintendents into a 3/4 ton that currently drives a 1 ton dually and putting a flatbed on that truck and putting it down in the fleet.
So move to
Okay,
approve
have a
on this
motion.
one.
Is there a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any other discussion? Submit your votes.
All votes are in.
See the votes.
Dang,
Unanimous
Tanny,
approval.
you just get your whole Christmas list.
Unanimous approval then to purchase the 3/4 ton from Classic Chevrolet. Item number 7, possible action to approve purchase of a 2024 Freightliner for $98,000 plus, and equipment including a 6-yard dump bed, sand unit, and snowplow. Total cost $185,000.
Mayor, the funds for this vehicle is been put together from remaining funds out of our FY 2023 operational budget, or balance, and FY 2023 salary balances, meaning open positions or vacant positions that we've had throughout the year. Those funds are just sitting there, so we were able to gather those funds together to make up a balance that would allow us to make this purchase. The 2024 Freightliner 108 SD will be equipped with a 6-yard dump truck, sand unit, and snowplow, and it'll replace a 1989 dump truck that's currently in our line maintenance department, and a 1985 dump truck with a sand unit and snowplow that's currently in our street department. Both of these units are in extreme poor condition. We've kind of talked about this during our retreat. We would be surplusing those items in the near future.
So moved.
Have a motion?
So for clarification, you've taken 13 open positions that were budgeted for and taken those funds for 23 and 22?
No, just out of our 23 budget, this
Okay,
current
for
year
those
that we're
open
in,
positions that are not filled.
that has not been filled,
And
and
that's
they've averaged
purchasing
between
this
9
entire
and 13.
purchase.
Yes, it's covering.
I just
this
want everybody to
entire-
understand that it's not out of, the money's sitting there, so let's get that.
That's correct, and
Right.
just to add to that, Tenny, that's a percentage of those funds. So I
Okay.
believe 60% is what we allow to spend up to,
So if you still fill a few positions between now and then, you've got them covered.
that's
Yes.
correct.
Okay,
If we,
thank you.
Yep, so we've been conservative, all the department heads and Kim, we've been through the budget at this point. And so what we've seen, typically Tenny and Leroy had a deal where if you got to a certain point of the year and you had so many open positions, Tenny was able to spend 60% of whatever that budgeted fund balance was on capital purchases that weren't budgeted for. That's what this is. That's a result of the conversation. we've had.
Cool.
Okay,
Cool.
so we have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, any other dialogue?
And Tenny, you're still hiring.
We're still hiring.
But don't come in a rush right now, because some of it cannot, you can't
You
afford
do bring
it.
your own truck.
You can drive the dump truck.
Submit your votes.
All votes are in.
See the votes. Unanimous approval then to go with the purchase of that 2024 Freightliner and accessories up to $185,000 plus dollars. Item number 8, discussion possible action to accept a grant fund from the Department of Transportation for Safe Streets for All grant, $200,000.
Yes, Mayor, the city of Guthrie had been awarded a $200,000 grant, and we'll use 50,000 local funds as our match for a total of 250,000. The award will be used by the city of Guthrie to develop a comprehensive safety action plan. This action plan will add extra incentives to additional grant options that we could have in the future for safety grants down the road.
So it's my understanding that without this, we couldn't even apply for some of those grants, is that
A
correct?
few of them, yes.
Yeah, so this is almost a mandatory thing for future safety grants
Yes.
in highway arena. And did I hear a motion over here? We have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second, any other dialogue? Submit your votes.
All votes are in.
Unanimous approval then to accept a U.S. Department of Transportation grant of $200,000 for the Safe Streets for All. Item number 9, discussion possible action regarding the Oklahoma Department of Transportation alternative TAP grant for downtown streetscapes. Eddie?
Yes, Mayor and Council, this is the same item you saw previously. Unfortunately, the meeting that Bill Myers, myself, Tenny, and Leroy had attended with the ODOT Division Engineer, Trent, January, the final numbers had not yet been calculated, and ODOT came back at $229,000 after they had originally agreed to our match of $169,000. So after a month of conversation and pushing the project out to October, we finally agreed we'll do the $229,000. It will require a budget amendment because budgeted funds have been used in design. So we will be using unbudgeted fund balance, and that will come forward to you at a later date. But at this time, the position we're in is we need to get this project moving. So we would recommend approval to move forward.
So our match went from 169 to the 229?
Yes, sir.
What's the total project scope? size?
1.145, and that is the sidewalk on Division.
Okay.
So that's all this is covering, the sidewalk? From,
The alleyway south of Cleveland to the
Harrison.
Harrison. Yep. So, and it's ADA compliant.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? Submit your votes.
All votes are in.
Unanimous approval then to move forward with the downtown streetscape project with the committed grant match of $229,199. Item number 10, discussion of possible action to approve the 2023-2024 School Resource Officer Agreement between the City of Guthrie and the Guthrie School District.
Yes, Mayor and Council, this item is consistent with what you've seen in years past. Essentially, Jonathan Williams, who was previously employed here at the city, retired from the city and works directly for Guthrie Public Schools as a school resource officer. In exchange for that, Jonathan has stayed on as a reserve officer here, and so we do furnish the original items that we would furnish for a reserve officer, i.e. a vehicle, uniform, et cetera. The total amount that we pay to the school district in this agreement is $7,684. Prior to an agreement of this nature, the school was paying the city 75% of 2 entry-level officers' salary. The amount that the school is paying Jonathan is more than that amount. So the agreement between the two, we've got a good SRO we want to keep in place. We're paying $7,684.
Cool.
Would recommend approval.
Okay.
Motion to
entertain-
approve.
Entertain a motion.
Second.
And a second. Any other discussion? Submit your votes.
All votes right.
Let's see the votes. Unanimous approval then to move forward with the 2023-2024 School Resource Officer Agreement between the City of Guthrie.
Don't need to, Dan.
And the Guthrie School District. Item number 11, discussion and possible action to confirm the mayor's nomination of Kaylee Mills to the Guthrie Planning Commission. Dan, are you presenting that?
I can just say that we have one position open, and the recommendation is for Kaylee Mills, so if she is appointed, the planning commission will be back to the full 5 members.
Okay, any questions of Dan?
I'll make a motion.
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Submit your votes.
All votes right.
See the votes. Unanimous approval then to approve the mayor's nomination of Kaylee Mills to the Guthrie Planning Commission, full term through March of 2026. Item number 12, discussion and possible action to reject all bids concerning the 2023-01 installed jet fuel tank at the Guthrie Airport. First time, is this your first time talking
Yes, sir,
to us?
it is.
All right, well,
All right.
welcome
We'll see how it
aboard.
goes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mayor and council, before Caden gets started, if you haven't met Caden, he's our new airport director. He's doing a fantastic job out at the airport, so give him softball questions, I'll take the hardball questions.
Well, we only throw hard balls on this
All right.
council.
All right, Caden. All right, Caden, well, welcome to the team, and what do you got here?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Council. In early April, we went out for a bid on a new jet fuel system. On May 3rd of this year, we opened bids. Before we could award a bid, a new arrangement has been in the works between the City of Guthrie and the incoming FBO owner. Due to this arrangement, we will no longer need to use our city funds to acquire a new jet fuel tank. This was taken to the airport board and approved unanimously, and at this time, staff recommends that we reject all bids.
Okay, questions of Caden?
So what's the new deal?
That is still in the works between the City of Guthrie and the FBO. But
Yeah, there's the hardball. So the chairman of the airport board is directly to your right.
I know
so
that.
The
I haven't been
airport,
briefed on it.
the airport board recommended unanimously to approve this rejection with the understanding that we would end up with a new Jet A tank as a result of negotiations with the potential FBO coming in to purchase that equipment, install it at the airport. It would ultimately be a gift to the city of Guthrie, and in exchange for an extension on a lease agreement between the city and the FBO to allow them to recoup their investment on that particular piece of equipment.
Well, good.
Sounds real good.
Are they
That wasn't too hard.
Are they gonna build a whole new FBO, is what the plan is? If you can't talk about that, I understand.
The plan is that there will be major improvements to
The FBO.
the FBO, including use of the hangar that's currently directly to the west of the current terminal hangar.
Okay.
But there will also still be use of the
Current FBO.
the current FBO
Okay.
terminal.
Okay, all right. Entertain a motion then.
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second? Submit your bid, or submit your votes.
Get your bid, okay.
No bid. Unanimous approval then to reject all bids for the installation of jet fuel tanks at the Guthrie Regional, Edmond Regional Airport. Item number 13, City Manager Report.
Yes, Mayor and Council, the summer swimming program at Pelican Bay is slated to end August 13th. that is consistent with the original date that the pool would have closed for the season. So the program has been wildly successful, which is good. We're happy to see that much use out of that program. Thanks to Kim and all of the department heads, I believe we have reached a flat, or as close to flat as possible on the budget as we could get. We've been extremely conservative in revenue projections for the next fiscal year. When I say extremely conservative, normal range of revenue increase 4 or 5% is typical as far as sales tax revenues. We're projecting a 1% increase in revenue. So if there is any ties to inflation, which we know there are, we'll see what levels out over the next year before we come up with the next budget for fiscal year 25. So thanks to the department heads, we've put them through the ringer on that. The water line on Division, the CDBG project, Bill Myers and Tinney believe that it'll be done, they say end of September, I'm gonna say end of October. I always add 30 days to whatever they give me. Because we were saying August and I was saying end of September, so now they're saying September, so now I'm saying end of October. And then lastly, I wanna say, we mentioned the need to purchase additional pumps for out at Cottonwood Creek for the pump, and then also the backwash pump at the water treatment plant. Early last week, we had both pumps at Cottonwood Creek go down. So I'm happy to report one pump is back up. Oh, they're both down. So that's changed. That's changed since this morning. So they're both down.
And one of them you just recently got out of the shop.
That was the first one that went back down. Today triggered a fault, and the second pump is down as well.
So what do we do in that case?
So we have, go ahead.
We've contacted the contractor for the first pump that made the repairs to that, Haynes Equipment. They've already came, pulled that pump, they have that pump. They have not gotten back with us on what their findings is with that one. We've contacted a second contractor, Rudy Bott, to come pull the second one. Probably be here more than likely tomorrow. I haven't even heard. It's still pretty early in the stage, so hopefully he can get here tomorrow and get that pump pulled and get it figured out fairly quickly.
How old are these pumps?
These pumps have been in the station since it was constructed, built,
2011.
so.
And we need to do,
Standbys.
yeah, we need to do something about that.
Probably been through the shop already at least once.
Okay.
So
It's a tough environment.
Yeah, well, the creek going up and down like it has been, so, yeah.
When one goes down, you rely on the other one, it runs continuous.
So when they're both down, we're pumping no water.
Correct.
So
So when we're pumping out of Cottonwood Creek, we filled up Liberty Lake. So
Right.
with the lakes are, I don't want to say the lakes are full, but the lakes are full. And so we've got some reserve there to use in the meantime. I mean, if,
Correct.
Both lakes, including Guthrie, are full.
Guthrie remains how many feet down?
Guthrie's still in the 6-foot range. It's still pretty low. We did not receive much of the rainfall in that basin or get the runoff to that lake that we've seen at Liberty. Liberty Lake, we were right around the 18-inch mark from being full with it. We're pulling currently off of Liberty for the water treatment plant right now. We're not pulling anything off of Guthrie Lake. All of our water's coming off of Liberty.
there you go.
So as soon as we can, we're gonna purchase pumps to have on the shelf.
And get
Ready.
those rebuilt so you'll have some backups. Okay.
Absolutely, yes, sir. So, that concludes my city manager report.
Okay, any questions of city manager? Okay, item number 14, comments from city council members. Vice Mayor Geary.
I have nothing, Your Honor, thank you.
Okay, Councilman Williams.
No, none, thank you.
Councilman Case.
It's really, really hot outside. Be careful. Drink a lot of water. That's all I got.
Councilman Ropp.
None at this time, thank you.
Councilman Bothroyd,
No, sir.
Councilman Taylor.
Thank you, staff. I know you guys are working overtime, and some of you guys are outside. I know it's hot. It's 100 and what, 101, 102. That's not good on your body. Drink your water, guys. That's what's the main thing. Red Brick Nights is coming up, and hopefully, there's gonna be a cold front coming through. Maybe it'll be cooler.
I wouldn't call it a cold front, but anyway,
Maybe a cool
but it might be a little bit cooler. You're
It's all
right.
relative.
It is relative, for sure.
You know, when you have 105, 98
Yeah.
feels pretty good.
Yeah, get your sweater out.
Yeah. Is that it?
That's it.
Okay, congratulations to City Manager Eddie, you and your staff, for basically making lemonade out of lemons with the issue with the pool and the alternative that you all have come up with. I think it was a huge success under less than good conditions. So really appreciate that working effort to still provide some service to our citizens with the pool in Edmond. You know, the audit, again, some of the key words there, clean audit, the financial position is stronger than it's been in the past, continues to grow. All of the applications are positive. I think all of that, again, Kim, reflects on you and staff, and all the departments. So really appreciate that. We have a vacancy in Historical Preservation Commission for an individual who is a building owner in the historical district. And also one in Parks Department, I believe we have a vacancy. Just to remind everybody that you need to be a citizen of Guthrie in order to be on one of these commissions. Sometimes when you have a Guthrie address, it still isn't in the city limits. So we've had a couple of those come through. We've gone back to the applicant and explained that. But just so that you know, the definition is within the city limits, not necessarily a mail address that has Guthrie on it.
With regard to the Preservation Commission position, if it's a building owner but they don't live within the city, is there a distinction on that? Because there are a couple of them that it doesn't, for example, the airport board doesn't require, some of the members come from Edmond, so with.
Offhand, or if I'd have to go read it again, but on a couple of the positions, because of that, it would allow outside the city limits, but preference was given to any applicant who was within the city limits. So essentially, if you have two applicants, one was outside, one was inside, you should be taking the one that's inside. But I'll look and confirm for sure, because I can't remember which one claimed with that type of thing.
Because
Rob, sorry, it happened, I think, not too long ago, where we had one inside and one outside that was owner, and so we went with the inside because.
Yeah. Yes, we did.
preference. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there are a couple of positions on that commission that require knowledge, and I didn't think that those actually required.
Those specifically, right, say you don't have to be in the city.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
But
that is
this particular vacancy is for a building owner within the
Right,
historic
yeah.
district.
Yes, sir,
Yeah.
right.
Okay, all right, good. Any last thoughts here? Okay. Item number 15, proposed to move into executive session to discuss negotiations with concerning non-bargaining employee pay plan, as well as the pay plan for the Fraternal Order of Police and the International Association of Firefighters. Entertain a
moved.
motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. We didn't want to go to executive session?
No, it's like somebody's got.
Submit your vote.
You don't want to.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we'll retire
We'll be
to
back.
executive session. We will
Ken, you should go first.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to move back into open session from executive session.
moved. Second.
Motion in a second. Submit your votes.
All votes are in.
See the votes unanimous then to move from executive session back to open session. Item number 17, discussion and possible action to approve resolution number 2023-32.
Your Honor, I so move that we adopt and approve resolution number 2023-32, adopting the revised fiscal year 2024 non-bargaining employee pay plan pursuant to section 700 pay plan and pay of the City of Guthrie Personnel Policies and Procedures Manuals adopted by the City Council Resolution 99-15.
Second.
Motion in a second. Any discussion? Submit your votes.
All votes are in.
See the votes. Unanimous approval to approve resolution number 2023-32. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we are adjourned. Thank you.